official podcast of the Jacksonville Public Library.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Brian.
Welcome back, everyone, to a wonderful show of Completely Booked. We have the CEO of Downtown Vision on the podcast today, and he's going to explain what that is and what they do. His name is Jake Gordon. He is very enthusiastic about downtown, which is great because we work at the main library and we love downtown as well. So it's really cool to hear what they're doing and what all is coming to downtown. He even gets into a little bit of what's going into the Laura Street Trio. He talks about what would be great for the Jacksonville Landing.
What do you want to see at the Landing?
I'm with him. I think that a big green space would be awesome. You know, some sort of where they could do like little festivals and stuff too.
Yeah,
you know,
that would be cool, right on the river.
A park on the river where you can see the river from that Laura Street, you know, all the way from the library. I think that would be great. I don't know about what do you think about the aquarium idea?
I don't think I would go,
Me
but it might
neither.
be nice for people if they come in from out of town for like Jaguar games or something to have something to do that's downtown.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people will come to the Landing and then be like, oh, I thought the Landing was supposed to be the place to go in Jacksonville.
That's true. People that I know that aren't from Jacksonville, have never lived here, are like, oh, I thought the Landing was the place to be because when I come for Florida, Georgia or anything, that's where they hang out.
Yep.
Which, for those events, it's true. He also, it's really cute, his son and daughter wrote down their favorite books to tell us as well. So you'll get a full book list from his kids and from him, which we will tag on our podcast page. So here is Jake Gordon from Downtown Vision. So thanks for being here. First of all, we really appreciate it. I know it was a long walk for you probably.
I love downtown and I love the main library. It is unbelievably beautiful in here.
I know.
I don't think people really realize how incredible it is inside. I mean, people get married here.
Yeah.
In like the atrium, and it's like expensive to get married here, and it's fantastic. I think if people get in these little pockets of downtown or our city overall, and they don't see everything. So if you haven't been to the downtown main library,
We say it every time. Come to the main library.
it's incredible.
People just don't know.
The kids area, it's unbelievable.
I know the sounds walking through, the whole jungle theme. People get scared. I've seen kids like, oh, I can't walk through there. It's scary.
But like I've been to the main, like trying to think of like the most famous library, like the library in New York, the main library with the giant lions. You go in there and it's like, New York's expensive to build, but like this library is arguably as nice, if not nicer than that library, which I've been to. I mean,
wow.
I don't know about the collections and everything, but like the experience of walking into the library is unbelievable.
What
It's
a
so
compliment.
nice.
What a compliment. I haven't been
that's
there
my
yet,
job.
but thank you. This is.
Am I supposed to say who I am, by the way?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Tell us about yourself. We're getting there.
Thanks for having me.
Jake Gordon.
Jake Gordon. I'm the CEO of Downtown Vision here in downtown Jacksonville.
Which is?
We're a nonprofit that's
Okay.
dedicated to making downtown Jacksonville a better place to live, work, visit, and invest. So we are, we're a nonprofit that represents both the private property owners and also the city and also kind of all of the stakeholders of downtown. It's actually a very common thing. We're called a business improvement district where we have an area where all the property owners in downtown pay a little bit into a fund, and we manage that fund on behalf of all the property owners and do good things with that money.
Okay.
So the property owners pay about $1.10 on every $1,000. So it's at the bottom of their tax bill. It's the smallest amount, and it's an assessment. They voluntarily pay that amount, and so we use that to do great things in downtown. But for me, my job is to kind of be one of the voices on how downtown Jacksonville can get better. One of those other voices, Mayor Curry is obviously the main voice on that, got reelected yesterday, and I was at his election celebration, and in my mind, the biggest cheers were for downtown, which is,
that's great.
It's just fantastic. It's fantastic that him living here, working hard for our city and really like making downtown a priority, because for many, many decades, I don't think downtown was a priority. And I think it's fantastic that Mayor Curry and his administration are helping every neighborhood, which he also said last night.
Right.
But, downtown is for everyone. There's only one main library like this.
Right.
There's a lot of other libraries, but none of them are as fantastic as this one. And that's like every city in America, great cities are built on great downtowns.
Absolutely. And I've worked down here for almost 2.5 years now, and I've just like in that short time kind of seen it grow and see more and more people out and about, which is amazing and probably a testament to some of the stuff you guys are doing.
Well, we don't like to take credit for everything. I mean, we're kind of like trying to synthesize it all. I mean, we do have a number of great projects we work on, like our downtown ambassadors, where Orange walk around downtown. We do First Wednesday Art Walk right out here on Laura Street. We have downtownjacksonville.com, which we're actually in the process of completely revamping. We do a number of different reports and a number of other things like our awards and things. But, you know, downtown is not all about us. There's actually an incredible number of people that are working hard on it. I think sometimes I get credit I don't deserve all the time because I'm kind of always representing downtown.
Right.
Like with this hashtag DTJax
I like that, by the way. Did you bring
brought
me one?
You guys.
Did you bring us one? Nice.
I did. I have a couple for you guys.
Those are really cool.
So
we have a pin for you too. We'll do pin exchange later.
There you go. Perfect. I got to take these out so I remember. But so, downtown is going well. I mean, I came here in May of 2015 and, people were like, you're going to have to convince people that downtown's important. And I still think I have to convince them, but we've come such a long way. Obviously, thanks to the mayor, city council president. I think since I've been here, there's been, Council President Greg Anderson, Council President Lori Boyer, Council President Anna Boucher, Council President Aaron Bowman. I mean, all of that council leadership and all the council people, and also obviously the mayor's office, Mayor Curry, have just done so much more than we as an organization could ever do in terms of prioritizing downtown. Right. And now the hard part is that it's like a long-term thing, right? Downtowns aren't built overnight. I just got off the phone with downtown Nashville, and those guys are just crushing it and have been working on it since the 90s and are like now reaping the benefits.
Right.
So even if we start now, my kids are 8 and 6, like when they're 20 years old, like I want them to graduate college and be like, I want to move to downtown Jacksonville. Right. And I think that's very possible, but we've got a lot of hard work in between now and then. Yeah,
absolutely. And you've been here for just 4 years.
Yeah. Where'd you come? Even, I think, right? May 2015, so it's soon. March.
Yeah. So where'd you move here from?
So I moved here from New Jersey.
Oh.
I moved here for love.
Okay.
I always ask people why they move here. I mean, I think Jacksonville and my friend Andre Wallace, who's now the head of the Jax USA Partnership, I think, we have an incredible recruitment story, and Andre and Daniel Davis at the Chamber, do a fantastic job. And I think they'll tell you, like, there's more of a story now about Jacksonville than ever before. But, like, for me, I grew up in New Jersey. My parents moved me to California when I was little, went to college in California, went to law school in Philadelphia, kind of near Jersey where I was from. And then it was like, okay, I'm moving to Jacksonville, Florida. And the people I know from New Jersey and the people I know from California are like, where are you moving?
Why?
Like, where? It wasn't even like a negative. It was just like, where? Like, we don't know anything. I mean, that's why really from a city identity perspective, the Jaguars are so unbelievably important. I mean, such a cultural touchstone as they are in a lot of cities. But like, it always is interesting to me, like when you look at like Forbes or, all these other news agencies, they do like a little thing of cities and they put a little icon next to the city. Like, we don't even have that icon. Like, what is our icon? Like, it's like some places, Orlando's got a mouse or a palm tree, and there's flamingos, and Fort Lauderdale. And it's like, we really, I think, are still, from my perspective, like really have a lot to do, a lot of room to grow related to our kind of cultural identity.
Right.
Like Andre he's from Georgia, but we went to Detroit with the Chamber right when I got here. It was actually my second day in Jacksonville in 2015. The Chamber took a trip to Detroit. And Detroit is like RoboCop. I mean, Detroit is like actively not a great city, not a great downtown, like by like metrics. But the people that live in Detroit love Detroit. And they will like fight you if you say something bad about Detroit. Yeah. And in Jacksonville, like people, you say something bad about Jacksonville, it's not like, and I feel like, Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, like we need a little more swagger. I mean, there's something to be said for like, owning Jacksonville. Right. And, the people I've met here in the last 4 years, I mean, they want that. Like when good stories come out about Jacksonville, they go all over the internet. Like we're on like some list of some website I've never heard of and it doesn't matter. Like everyone's sharing it. And so it's like, in my mind, there's a latent demand for us to be like super proud of Jacksonville. And to me, that comes back to downtown. Like, a downtown we can be proud of. When you think of a city in your head, you think of its downtown. Like people say, why downtown? It's like, that's what you think of. When I say Nashville, I've never even been to Nashville. I assume it's like a giant city, but like people think about like downtown. Yeah. They think about the Titans. They think about Broadway, right? They've done a lot more to be like, here's what we have. So, for me, when I moved here, it's been like a really personal experience of like, number one, like it's an amazing place to raise a family and have children. Like, I was already excited to move here, but it's just been even better than I ever expected for like our family. I said I moved here for love. My wife is from Gainesville, Florida. So her family lives here. She's a Gator. And so, we were always going to move here. Yeah. And so, but for me, like I never expected in my entire life to be living and raising my family in Jacksonville, Florida. Like I had never even, my parents had only been to Florida once before they came for my wedding, which was near my parent, just in St. Augustine, right near here. So anyway, I think, I have a lot of obviously deep-seated feelings about downtown and also Jacksonville. Like I really love proving to people how fantastic downtown and Jacksonville can be. I had about 10 friends from law school come to the Jaguars game 2 years ago and go to the pool and like experience like all there is to do like at that stadium and also in downtown and Intuition and Murray Hill and downtown and like all these places to go. And they were like, these are guys that live on Long Island. They were like, this is great. Like, their houses cost like $8 million and mine cost like, a tenth of that. It's like, and it's like the return on investment for Jacksonville compared to the Northeast and compared to California is a fantastic return. I think, the only thing holding us back is like the awareness. Right. And that's the same thing with downtown. Coming to this main library, like you're just like, is it good? Like I've never been there. I live in Mandarin or I live in, St. Nicholas or I live in Orange Park or, and like, why do I need to go to the downtown main library? And it's like, but, we say prejudice doesn't survive experience. Like once you come here and you experience it, right. You realize, oh, okay, there's a lot of good going for it and there are a lot of great things.
So what are some of the things you guys are working on right now with Downtown Vision to get us to this place of downtown Jacksonville?
Sure. So, Downtown Vision itself is a nonprofit, a smaller nonprofit. We represent the private property owners. I mentioned kind of our Clean and Safe ambassadors, which is where the bulk of our money goes. So from like a fiscal perspective, we spend almost all of our money, 80% or more, on staffing. So I have 6 people in my office, 5 people plus me. And then I have about 15 to 16 to 17 ambassadors. We keep growing our ambassador team on the street. And so we feel like human beings are the best way to spend the money that the private property owners in the city have given us. And so, those human beings do a lot of different things. The Clean and Safe ambassadors, obviously, if you're downtown, you see them in our orange uniforms. They do fantastic things every day and really provide a level of comfort and a level of safety and cleanliness and hospitality that we feel like downtown really needs. And it's something that, a city government would never necessarily do. And that's why I'm in the International Downtown Association, which is an association of all of the organizations like ours. And ambassadors are just a huge thing people spend money on. It's really makes a lot of sense. Everyone loves them. They do a fantastic job. And they really add a whole different sense. So, I think we're the only neighborhood in Jacksonville that has that sort of thing. And it kind of makes it, people do get jealous and say, yes, I wish we had kind of some of the things that you have, which is really to testament to the men and women that work for us, that are out on the street every day communicating with everyone. We just got a thank you note yesterday from a woman who was staying here on her way to, I think down like Cape Canaveral to take a cruise, and like was here for just a little bit and then realized she forgot all her underwear, but she literally had to start driving. And I think she was like 70 something, couldn't drive. So one of our ambassadors went over to either Fresh Market or the other grocery store and like bought her a bunch of underwear and brought it back to her so she could go on her cruise with underwear. That's which awesome. Is like, you can't make this stuff up. But like, we got a very nice thank you note from her for Willie, our ambassador, who was our ambassador of the year last year. And, just fantastic. Yeah. Willie's a great story because he came out of City Rescue Mission. They have a great program related to substance abuse, and he has like completely changed his life thanks to their program, which is also in downtown. And then, we hired him, and then he's been a fantastic employee for us. So that's it's awesome. Like, from a downtown vision perspective, it's not just about the ambassadors, it's about how we connect to kind of everyone that is in downtown. So like ViStar Credit Union's moving downtown, and like, they already have used our ambassadors and know how great they are. And then like Fair and Fair, who's been downtown forever with all of their buildings and a great law firm and a partner for downtown, they always are nice to our ambassadors around the holidays, because it's like kind of like all one big downtown family kind of working to help each other, kind of like a neighborhood. I mean,
right.
In my mind, you know, downtown's a neighborhood for everyone, though. The city literally has a neighborhoods department, and I think that's like kind of supposed to be like everywhere but down. Like when you say the neighborhoods, it's like everywhere but downtown.
You think of all the other pockets, yeah.
But the reality is, we need downtown to be more of a neighborhood. We need more people to live here, more people to care about it. One of the challenges of any downtown is that if you have a very transient downtown, I used to work in downtown Los Angeles out of law school in like 2003 to 2006. And downtown Los Angeles was a ghost town. Like you'd go there for work and maybe you go to lunch, but then I would go home and everyone would go home to neighborhoods. And downtown Los Angeles, people say we're spread out here. Los Angeles is the same. We had zip code parties at my law firm, and I was the only one in my zip code. Like people were living like hours away.
That's crazy.
And what happens is downtown LA, you know, you don't have that core group of people that care. Like residents care more than anyone about their neighborhood.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why one of the things we're really focused on is just bringing more people to downtown. And that's not just us. It's really the Chamber of Commerce, Jax USA adding jobs, and also, you know, Daniel Davis and the Chamber talking about adding residents to downtown, and really how can we help as a community help these developers add residential units and help residents that are already here. So it's definitely a focus. But you know, our unofficial fifth pillar at Downtown Vision, which is more on me as opposed to the other people in my office, is just more about how we kind of connect all of the stakeholders together.
Right.
We're not as much of a convener, but it just, you know, it's kind of like if you have a neighborhood association that kind of acts as like a, you know, a point of contact, a tethering between all of these various stakeholders. Like you just asked me about a building that's like 3 blocks from here.
Yeah.
But you're always in this building. And so you don't necessarily always get out and walk around and go to all the things that I do. So one of the things that we do a lot is cross-pollinate all the information around downtown. And there's so much going on to kind of make sure everyone's educated.
Right.
Because that's really what's holding downtown back. Is like people don't really know. I mean, we do have, you know, one of our tenants is called experience creation. And, you know, we definitely have work to do related to making downtown a better experience. I mean, invariably, the experience inside some of these buildings, like the main library, is probably a little better than out on the street. But you see, like the city with working with Friends of Hemming Park, you know, it's more about like reclaiming all of these spaces and making them a better experience for everyone. You know, one of the big challenges for this library and also for downtown is just the amount of kind of homeless and transient population that we have. I think Changing Homelessness has told me we have about 25% of the region's homelessness in just this 3 square mile area that is downtown. And so you've seen, though, Mayor Curry with the Urban Rest Stop and Council President Bowman, you know, it's not just a problem related to helping these individuals, which we all care about, but it's also about helping downtown. It's a double win. If you can get people off the street and get them to homes and services, you can really help them. And like for me, I walk around this library, like there's definitely people hanging out that probably could use some help, and we probably want them to get that help. And other cities have done that, and then you really get a better experience downtown, because no one really wants their experience to be being panhandled, which I'll be brutally honest, like does happen in downtown, definitely happens. And so it does pain me to think people come to Sweet Pete's, you know, on Sunday when downtown's a little slow, or the new MLG restaurant, and like their experience is kind of walking down a kind of empty street and then getting panhandled like that. That's an experience that we need to fix. Now, are we going to fix that? Well, we already have ambassadors out on the street that are helping try to make it nicer, but really, you know, one of the ways to really do it is to bring a lot more people.
Right.
I mean, those same homeless people are around during Art Walk, but you don't focus on them at all because there's thousands of other people on the street that are making you feel comfortable. And it is really ironic. People feel the safest with most people around. It's the opposite of statistics, right? If you're by yourself, you're in theory the most safe, but that's when people feel the least safe. And so really adding tons of people to downtown, Art Walk's a great example of that, where, you know, all these people around a vibrant, active, exciting downtown. And not just Art Walk, Jazz Fest the city puts on, you know, Florida, Georgia over by the stadium. I mean, these are amazing events where JSO does a fantastic job.
Right.
There's like almost no incidents, and there's like thousands, hundreds of thousands of people walking around. And so we really just want downtown to always be like that. That's what other bigger downtowns have gotten to.
Right.
I got to Atlanta for the Super Bowl,
Oh,
and
wow.
you know, they have a homeless problem for sure, but they also have an amazing Millennium Park or Olympic Park, and they have a Ferris wheel right downtown, which potentially is something we could have. And it's great. And then they get the College Football Hall of Fame that they steal from South Bend, Indiana, and they like add things. And, I don't want to move to Atlanta. It's ridiculous. You can't get around. They have all these other problems. But if we could just take some of the good things, like their downtown core in terms of the density, our city would be even better.
That's awesome. And
I'm really not letting you talk. So
no, you're okay. Perfect. This is the point of the interview. Learn more about you. I don't care about me.
I talk a little bit. Those that know me feel like I can talk for a little bit.
Oh, you're perfect for podcasting then.
Yeah, and I've got a face for it.
And so one of the major projects that I walk past all the time is the Barnett Building. So that's going to bring residential, right? So what all is going to be in there?
Yes.
More residents.
Yes. I mean, it really is unbelievable. As someone like me that just moved here again, I feel like I get credit. But I mean, these are projects that, I don't know how old you are, but like your entire life. I definitely so the Laura Street Trio is right in the geographic center of downtown. Oh. 3 historic buildings joined together. Those are right across the street from the Barnett Building that used to be the Barnett Bank, which is like a historical touchstone. So these are 4 historical buildings that everyone agrees need to be preserved. And yet economically, they have been empty our entire lives.
Wow.
And so when you talk about a downtown, it is a challenge. One of the first challenges you need to get over is how do we add that vibrancy while filling up buildings that are historically accurate, restoring them to historical accuracy. So I'm big in Urban Land Institute. It's real estate development. So you can go into all of that. But the reality is people think it's like somehow a city's fault, but like all that is the economics, right? I used to live in Camden, New Jersey, one of the poorest and most dangerous cities in America. And one of the challenges is there are these beautiful homes that are Victorian homes that were built in the heyday of Camden back in the RCA days. And now those homes are $30,000. And people are like, why aren't people buying these and fixing them up? It's like, well, it takes $100,000 to fix it up. Right. And then you can rent it for not a lot. So no one's in the business. Real estate developers definitely aren't in the business of putting money in and losing money. But you talk about the Barnett Building. Steve Atkins, who is the developer with Southeast Development, he truly is a visionary and a risk taker related to those buildings. It's a $100 million project, and there are some that say, it might not be worth what he's putting into it. But he believes in downtown, and the city believes in him too, because Mayor Curry and the Downtown Investment Authority with Andre Wallace and now Brian Hughes have invested in that project. So people ask me, why does the city have to be an investor? Well, it's great when the city's an investor. You want the city to be an investor. In fact, the Landing is another great project where the city owns the property but wasn't an investor. When you're an investor in the project, you can have a say in the project. So you look at this $100 million project and the city's an investor for about 10 to 12 million, about like just over 10%. Great investment, right? They're a part of the project. The other thing is, Steve Atkins and the developers really needed that investment, right? Because the project, I like to say, doesn't pencil. So when you write down a real estate project, you say, okay, here are the sources, here are the uses. Like, here's what I'm going to have to spend, and here's what I'm going to get out of it. And will it make me money and a return? And so when you look at the Downtown Investment Authority, which is a fantastic agency for our city, they are in the business of, okay, we want you to develop, you want you to develop, but the cost that you need to develop, let's say hypothetically or not, for these historic buildings costs more, right? So we don't want you to knock them down. We want you to keep them forever. It's going to cost you more. Well, how much more? And so then you work out a deal where all of these developments now are called public-private partnerships, where the public sector is an investor because they get a return. The city's return is going to be in money, but not only in money, it's going to be in intangibles. The Landing was so much more important to the city and to downtown than it was to the developer. He had 90 other properties. We only have one downtown.
Right.
And so same thing with the Trio and with the Barnett. And so you see these P3s, public-private partnership, that's really the nature of how things are going. So but still, like, the numbers, have to work. And so it's been a long process. I know Andre at the DIA said when they finally announced the Laura Street Trio in the DIA board meeting, he said, like, the moment I got here, he was here a couple years before me, this was the first question I was asked, like, when are these buildings going to be redeveloped? And the flip side of that is people think, it was like 4 or 5 years of just hard work from the developer and from the city side making that project go. And I just feel like people don't really understand that our elected officials really are working for us. There's not one person that's like, keep it empty.
Right.
And people think, oh, why don't they just fill it up? And it's like, I just don't think they understand what that really means. The economy is against us. The rents of Jacksonville, one of the best things about Jacksonville is how affordable it is. But it's not that much cheaper to fix up that building in another city with higher rents, like Atlanta. So the construction cost is kind of the same, but the rents are lower that you're going to get. So right away, you might not make as much money. So if you're a rich guy and you have money to put in one city over another, you might as well go to a city with higher rents because that's going to make you more money.
Right.
And so then what you really get is great cities like Greenville, South Carolina, Nashville, Cleveland, all these other kind of mid-major cities, local developers are unbelievably important because there's an extra level. So when you think about Steve Atkins, local guy, you think about Peter Rummel and Mike Munn's local guys, you think about Shad Khan, who has a huge investment here in terms of the shipyards. These bigger projects, it takes a lot of big vision and foresight and also risk on their part. And that's why you see people that live closer are more likely to invest. And that's why they're on the forefront. I went to Greenville and met with them, and they have a great story to tell. And, local development was all of the development. Jacques, the Klemp family and the Calvert Chop House and all the money they put into that historic building. I mean, it's a labor of love. Like they are literally doing it not just to help themselves, but to preserve a piece of history of our downtown and to make an incredible restaurant, which if you haven't been there, Calvert Chop House is a gem. And, it's like, but it's really helping us as a city. Jesse Ball DuPont Fund, another one, right? Hayden Burns Library, like the costs are the costs to fix up that library into a building. And, the idea that we have a nonprofit that's fixed up that building to be amazing, they're renting it out at much lower than they could ever get back, but they're doing it philanthropically.
Right.
But really all of these projects are philanthropic gifts to our downtown and helping us grow piece by piece. Yeah. So that was a long-winded way of talking about the Barnett. But what you asked about was what's going in there. And so Laura Street Trio and the Barnett are one project, huge project.
Okay.
It's going to be a hotel, a bunch of residential, a bank, which is kind of out there in terms of what the bank will be, and then also, which is already there, UNF. UNF has an entrepreneur center that's open right now in the Barnett.
Wow.
I know. You say that. Your face is saying
because I know what it looks like.
It's under construction.
I know what it looks like. I don't even know how you get in there.
And it's when this stuff starts moving from a construction perspective, everything's aligned. And Danis is the contractor over there, and they do a fantastic job. They actually did. They did Calvert Chop House and they did the DuPont. They know about these historic buildings, and there's a lot of other good general contractors out there, but those guys are really good. There's all of these issues, but once you get all your money and all of your entitlements in place, you start moving forward and you go as fast as you can. Right. And so UNF was like, I want to be in there. Get me in there. And so we'll tour over there. We should, the idea that you can go walk up there right now. If you're a UNF student or just someone else, you can go into this entrepreneur center, and it's supposed to be about teaching small businesses the tools to succeed. And it's a fantastically beautiful space. They have an outdoor space, which is kind of like the library. You can't even tell it's there until you're in it. And I think those are floors 4 and 5.
Okay.
And so the bottom floors are now going to be Vagabond Coffees, I think, going in there, and a number of other retailers. And there's going to be a restaurant, Scotty Schwartz, and I think is still going into the Laura Street Trio. And so it's going to be a giant mixed-use development with housing, retail, and the university.
What about a grocery store?
Well, it's a great call. So downtown does have a grocery store. It's right over here in Brooklyn. We do have it.
Oh, okay. You got to cross a bridge, though, sort of, right?
Fair. So super fair. I mean, I always want, we're partners with everyone. Yeah. I want to make sure Brooklyn Station is an amazing Regency centers based in downtown. They have centers everywhere. They've done a fantastic job with that. I mean, and it's still more of a suburban model because that works with retail. But what you're pointing out is that a number of other cities, to really make residential grow, they have added grocery stores, and cities have literally paid for the grocery store to be there.
Wow.
Like grocery stores have to sell everything at the same price. Like they don't make a ton of money. They don't have a lot of margin to put into the store to fix it up. So you don't see a lot of grocery stores in historic rehabs, except in downtowns.
Right.
And so there are a number of them, Cleveland, Kansas City, a number of other cities. And I know the Downtown Investment Authority and the city have always looked at that, but that is an interesting case of where, what do residents need? And if residents need an amenity, and what you're pointing out is walkable, like really walkable. I mean, the Hyatt is fantastic, has just redone their entire lobby. They have a 24-hour coffee and restaurant in the Hyatt. It's open 24 hours.
Didn't know that.
See, there you go. But see, so is that walkable for you? Well, to me, I walk from here to the Hyatt all the time, but it goes more to like how far people will walk.
Yeah.
If you're in downtown Orlando, they have a Publix right on Lake Ono right there in a residential building, and people will walk kind of a long way. And from a real estate perspective, supermarkets have very big catchment areas. I mean, I don't know about you. I live in San Marco because my kids go to public school right there. But like the closest grocery store is not that close. I mean, if I put it in my phone, it's the Riverside Publix, which you said across a bridge. So it's like, so I mean, obviously get a little into the details, but a grocery store is a fantastic thing to add in terms of amenity. And the question is, what else do, the city's been working open space. People have been kind of, there's a lot of excitement on what the landing could be, or what that landing space could be. I am a little confused as why people don't think waterfront green space is a value add. I mean, to me, waterfront park, every city in America, every downtown is trying to build gigantic parks. When I was in Camden, the charter of our nonprofit Cooper Strait Partnership was to develop the Camden waterfront across from Philadelphia, and one of the main tenets was open space and equality and river walk for all.
That was like one of the first renderings that I saw was a huge like open walk dog.
Yeah. But people have been, in my mind, and this is where, in our society now we could talk all about internet comments and just like, is that, and I'm big on Twitter, but like, I get almost all my information from Twitter, which is ridiculous at this point. And there is that rendering out there, although I am pretty confident, with the Downtown Investment Authority and Mayor Curry, what you just need to believe is they have our best interests at heart, and they do. Like a giant waterfront park where people could see the water from right here. You and I could walk out right now, look down Laura Street, we see the landing sign. And it's like, what would be better to see? How about the water?
Right.
The riverfront. And so when people talk about that building was built in 1988, where, one of the main things that people have realized now is reconnecting people with the water. We want to be the river city, but if you look at the way downtown's built, it's actually built for us to hang out in Hemming as opposed to hang out on the river. And so if you're trying to fix that, sight lines to the river are incredibly important. Hogan Street's actually one of the only places that if you look down Hogan Street, you could see a little sliver of river.
Right, barely.
And, the built environment is incredibly important for that. And so the other thing is the setback. The landing was a great partner for a long, long time. But like, if you go to where Finn McCool's is right there, there's only like, you have to get off your bike and walk by someone because there's such a narrow walkway over there. So, if it were me, having more of a setback is a fantastic idea in terms of green space. So, and there's green space everywhere. Main Street Park, the city has been focused on that. I mean, that's kind of a combination of our downtown problem with transients and kind of like, is it a good experience and what's happening?
Right.
The library, not to place blame, but free Wi-Fi, people come in here. Like it's, you think about, to me, it's not an accident that Main Street Park and Hemming Park, but the thing between them is the library. Like the library is an incredible amenity. People are talking about, hey, we should open up a day center so people could check their email. It's like, that's already the library. Like
we got that right
you
here.
You would never be able to build a day center more fantastic than this library.
Exactly.
So it is interesting. I mean, and it's like, people kind of accused me of being hard-hearted related to the transients. And I was like, look, I just use the mother test. If your mother, my mom knows I'm in downtown, knows I'm sitting on a bench. She's happy I am here. I'm doing the right thing. And tons of people are doing that every day. But there's a lot of people that their mother probably would prefer them to be somewhere else if they're sitting on a bench drinking beer or have mental health problems or don't have a home and are sitting with all their bags. And so it's like, we just want to be like their mother. Like me moving them or wanting them to go get help is no different than someone in their family caring about them. But the streets of downtown are for people to use, but not for people to use for that. You know, you don't want to linger all day long with all of your belongings in a bag. There are plenty of amazing social services around where you can get the help you need. And so that kind of system, which is a way for us to help those individuals and help downtown at the same time. So it's a win-win. But we are very open that is kind of the number one thing when we do our surveys about downtown, both from a living perspective and from a residential and from a working perspective. That's the first thing people say. Like, there's not as many people on the sidewalk, and the people I do run into seem like they have, issues that probably should be focused on.
I just took your survey maybe 2 days ago.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for doing that.
It was great.
If you go to downtownjacksonville.com, you can take our survey. We use it to kind of help people understand what's really going on the ground in downtown, which is sometimes different than you think.
Well, I love downtown Jacksonville. I've worked down here for a while, so I am really appreciative of what's going on, and I'm really excited for all the stuff that's happening. Switching gears really fast, you have a shout out to give, correct?
Really fast. Well, my kids were really excited that I was going on the library podcast. Completely booked, which is an amazing name, by the way.
Thank you.
So yes, they did give me their favorite books, so they
These
wanted
are
me to
so
shout
cute.
them out.
I'm gonna get a picture of those.
Are you?
Too.
Yes.
Yeah.
My son loves Amulet by Kazu Kibuishi. So it's a graphic novel. We were talking about graphic novels.
Not a comic book.
It's not a comic book. I know. I feel like this is a genre. My 8-year-old son goes, Dad, it's not a comic book. It's a graphic novel. It is definitely, obviously, a narrative story, and there clearly are pictures, but it's told in a way that is really...
And it's more like a chapter book style. It's not like a magazine, probably, like a comic book.
No, yeah. It's like a book, which is interesting. And it's
so he's right. It's a graphic novel.
I told you we could do a whole podcast on just because obviously, for me, it's like, that my kids translate from picture books to books with all words. But at the same time, we always say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I mean, sometimes I remember I was mentioning to you Maus, M-A-U-S, is a graphic novel that came out about the Holocaust, and they use it's like the Jews are mice and the cats are the Nazis, and it's unbelievably powerful. It's actually it's more powerful than if you're just reading words, because it's really telling
the imagery,
an incredibly powerful story that's important for people to know. So it's and that I remember was on the New York bestseller list when I was growing up, and it's that's not a comic book. That's somehow legitimate. But then it's my wife doesn't want my son to read Marvel comics all the time. So no offense to them. So this Amulet is right in between. My son got one over here at Chamblin's, another fantastic place besides the library to get used books.
Love
Chamblin's uptown, fantastic. My dad lives in California. He comes here. That's the only place I have to take him.
That's my mom too. She has to go there.
It's amazing there. And so I got him one of these at there, and then now suddenly we have 8. And he just told me this morning the 9th one is coming out in 2 years.
Oh wow.
He's 8. He's gonna be 10 when it comes out. He's already talking about it. He also really likes Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Jeff Kinney. He has the Who Was Jeff Kinney. So he's progressed he's read all the diaries, so now he has the biography of Jeff Kinney, who's the guy that wrote Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Man, we need to have your son on the podcast.
Once you get into it, yeah. My daughter also loves the Who Was, so she right now has Who Was Dr. Seuss, who obviously is a totally impactful kids, a totally next level kids author. And it's funny to read a biography about that kid's author and learn. For me, I went to UC San Diego in La Jolla, go Tritons, and Theodore Geisel, Dr. Seuss, donated money for our library. And it's the craziest library you've ever seen if you see it. But that's our Dr. Seuss connection, but she really likes it. And she also has a number of other books that she's reading. So shout out to Samantha and Alex Gordon.
That is so...
my kids for their books.
That is so sweet that you guys were looking at this paper that they wrote on. I'll put a picture of it on our podcast page.
Yes.
It's really cute.
Yes, they wrote them for you.
And what about you? I bet you feel pressure to read books since your kids read so many now. It's me on this podcast. I feel pressure to read books because we talk about them sometimes on the podcast. So I'm always reading now.
So there's never enough time for books, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of what are you reading? And especially in the internet day and age, it's unbelievable. So it's do you go to Kindle? I feel it's the idea of these ebooks are more accepted. I mean, we can talk about that forever. Yeah. So I actually have, and I have Audible too, which my mom has gotten me into in terms of audiobooks, which also if you were to ask me, I would much prefer to read a book than listen to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the time that I have is definitely conducive. Yeah. And so I've been driving to Orlando. My wife's worked there, and I drove my kids there, and I just drove to Atlanta also. So I did listen to 2 fantastic books, Walter Isaacson. So I love biographies too.
Okay.
That's why it's interesting that my kids, Walter Isaacson, Ben Franklin, which is just like Ben Franklin. My office has already told me, like, stop talking about Ben Franklin. I mean, Ben Franklin is literally created this country, right? He was the elder statesman of the country. So he literally created the humor, traditional American humor. So like Mark Twain, whatever, Will Rogers, like a whole generation of humorists. He was like, he could be in France with the King of France and the King of England, but he was the American guy. He wore a coonskin cap to that, and he created like what it means to be an American. If he had just done that, it's awesome. Yeah. But obviously we know about like the kite and the lightning. He invented the battery. Ben Franklin. I was like, you listen to these things, you're like, wait, what? I mean, think about it. If you and I just invented the battery, that would definitely be enough. Yeah. There are batteries everywhere, right? He invented the battery in his spare time. He retired at 42 after he had created humor in Poor Richard's Almanac. He retired at 42 and had another 42 years of his life, and he would just tinker around in the 17 and 1800s, and he used this German model of like glass jars and basically created a way to store energy in a device, which is now the battery. And I literally read that in Walter Isaacson's book. I like, don't even believe this. I have to like look it up. This can't be true. Otherwise I would have known it. Yeah. So anyway, I've moved on to Leonardo da Vinci, who is another. Walter Isaacson kind of gravitates towards these incredible men. David McCullough is my favorite author. So it's like Jonestown Flood, Brave Companions, Truman, all of these, John Adams, which it does kind of annoy me when everyone's like, I'll just watch the movie. It's like, no.
It's never as good.
It's not even, it's
you don't get as much information.
It's not even comparable. Yes, you can't, the exposition in a movie, that's why a book, like they have to shorten it. Jurassic Park is a great example. Michael Crichton, fantastic author. You can read Jurassic Park and then watch the movie. Another fantastic book that my son and I just read, which is not totally 8-year-old appropriate, is Ready Player One. Fantastic book that Steven Spielberg read and made in a movie, but they're literally nothing alike.
They're so different.
They only have the cultural touchstones and then maybe a couple things. They even switch. He's from like Columbus, Ohio, or he's from Oklahoma City, and they make it Columbus, Ohio for no reason. It's like, what? But
so random.
I would encourage anyone that sees these movies to go back and read the book because it's not really spoiling it if you want to hear about it. And there's just a whole different way to tell a story. So anyway, like most things, I feel strongly about the book movie comparison. I do read books for work. And so the book I just read, which clearly fits me, is Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And so it's basically Kim Scott was at Google and basically, when we're managing people, and it's a little bit like you hear these cultural differences, like with the English or being American, or there's all these cultural things, Japanese, there's all these cultural, especially related to the workplace. And one of the things that historically we've done is like, don't tell people the whole truth because we're trying not to upset them. And Kim Scott's basically, and I'm compartmentalizing it and summarizing it way too succinctly, but basically like radical candor, like, you think you're hurting someone by telling them the truth, but you are actually helping them. And if you tell that to someone that you care about, so like basically your workplace should be more like a family. You need to create a relationship where your employees know that you care about them. So when you tell them that this was wrong, that they don't think that it's you criticizing them from a place of negativity. We all grow together through this, so I mean, to me, I have a personality which fits perfectly with that. And I encourage my employees to challenge me and to basically make fun of me, which I don't get upset about. And I think that that's kind of how Silicon Valley and Radical Candor with Kim Scott, they've kind of used that mentality, and it's the best organizations have really taken that to heart and grown.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool.
I wrote that
Kim
one down.
Scott,
I'm gonna look that one up. That looks great.
And I mean, I know I'm talking too much, but I do have one more, which if you ever want good books, I think Bill Gates gives great book recommendations on his blog. For some reason, he's still blogging. The one I have, which I've only just started, but it's Factfulness by Hans Rosling. And it's basically that he starts with the premise, which is perfect for downtown. He starts with the premise that everything you know about the world is wrong. Like if you poll people about the world, about how poor they are or how rich they are or what their living conditions are like, that everyone is wrong. That if you give it to, it's a little bit like March Madness, which is shout out in DT Jacks. It's fascinating to me. If you give Dick Vitale a March Madness, his whole life is college basketball. If he fills out a bracket, I have the same exact shot of knowing who's going to win as him.
Which is great.
And so my daughter's going to win our pool, and she's 6. And she's going to pick on the characters. And so it's just fascinating how that works in the world. So people that think they know things, they really don't. And so this book is all about, factfulness, like, in this era of fake news, like how we actually realize where we are in the world. I've traveled a lot, and one of the things that Americans get a bad rap about is that being so focused on America and like right now not knowing like who the Prime Minister of Canada is or all the other leaders, where if you're in Canada, they all know what we're doing. And to me, this is apparently kind of part of that whole thing. So I'm excited to read it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yes, good.
Very thought-provoking.
All right.
I love it. Okay, last question for you. We always ask people this. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
This is funny. You tipped this off to me, and I still don't have an answer. I mean,
a lot of people, sometimes people don't remember. Like, I can't remember what I wanted to be.
My kids right now love the song High Hopes by Panic at the Disco.
Yeah, great song.
But it's actually like a really good message. So we listen to it in the morning to get them like fired up for school. And like today, again, I was like, what are your high hopes? Like, what are your high hopes? And it's funny, like aspirationally 8-year-old and 6-year-old, their lives are great. They're like, what do you mean? Like, I have everything I need. So it's interesting. I think, for us as parents, you almost have to take stuff away for them to want more. If we give them everything they need,
right,
they don't want more. And so that's a challenge for parents, especially if you have enough to give them and your gut is to give them what they need. So, from that perspective, what to be like, we were middle class growing up, but like, it was funny because I felt like I had everything I need. The one thing I was fascinated with was popular culture. And that's why Ready Player One spoke to me, because that's exactly how old I am. Born in like 1976, like all of those 80s video games.
Yeah.
I was never allowed to have video games. And so the idea that I could be a part of pop culture was a huge one. And it was right around when like Fisher Price came out with their video camera that was still kind of attainable, which by the way, I did not get and never had. But I was obsessed with the video camera so I could make movies. And so my mom actually had a video camera. And so me and my friends made a ton of movies. I remember for my sixth grade science fair, we made the History of Light, starting at like cavemen, and made a movie, and they screened it. Shout out to Mr. Nelson somewhere, one of my favorite teachers ever. 6th grade, Tollgate Grammar, Pennington, New Jersey. We screened it at the science fair. And so I always want to be like that. And so like Steven Spielberg, that was like my parents were like, maybe this is a thing. Like they were totally, they were like, wait, is this a thing?
Yeah.
And then they were kind of for it. And, I do think, I obviously don't do that now. I went to law school and a more traditional probably. I do think that, creative content like Shawana here at the library does a fantastic job of curating. Like the idea that the arts and art can be part of everything. Somehow I'm a lawyer, but one of our biggest things is Art Walk. Like to me, the cultural environment can be part of everything. I just met with Joy Young, the new Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville Executive Director. This idea that we have to be compartmentalized. So I do feel like I still like part of that creating stuff.
Right.
I don't necessarily create art or go home or do any of that, but I do feel like growing up wanting to be a movie director and having some part in it, that helps.
Yeah. Most of the people are doing a little bit of what they always wanted to do, or you can see how it like might have formed their path.
Yeah.
So
the other thing for me was like explorer, and the idea that is there anywhere on Earth left to explore? Like, do you have to be an astronaut? I just read James Cook. That's an amazing book about, it's just unbelievable, these books where like they're riding off the edge of the Earth, or so they think, and then they discover everything. And so that was kind of interesting. So I've traveled a lot, but I also think that's fueled my passion for downtowns.
Right.
I think it's valuable to have seen a lot of cities. I think it's interesting. There's some people in Jacksonville that haven't been a lot of places because of their means. And it is hard because you're kind of using an example, Chicago. And it's like, well, I've never been to Chicago. I'm in Jacksonville. And it's like, okay, well, I think there's, we don't want to make Jacksonville Chicago. They have tons of problems of their own. But it's always cool to see other places, like, visit other libraries.
Yeah.
And, like, try to steal their secrets.
Absolutely. That's what we did with this podcast. Just stole everybody else's ideas. That's all you do. Try to get the best of everything into your little world. So that's great. This has been really fun. We really appreciate you coming here and all that you're doing downtown. So thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We are always partnering with Downtown Vision here at the main library, and we love Art Walk that they do on the first Wednesday of every month, especially with the addition of our Jack's Makerspace in the gallery that we have on the ground floor. We've really added a ton of programming to go along with Art Walk. So if you haven't been to the library during Art Walk, you need to come in. And actually, this Wednesday is Art Walk. So we are having and hosting a folk music festival. There's going to be 3 stages. We have one in the main library in the Jack's Makerspace, and then there's going to be the main stage in Hemming Park. And we're also going to do a kids stage as well. And we have 6 or 7 performers, I think.
Right now, I think there's 7 lined up.
Yes, we have 7 lined up. So it's going to be really cool. Free, totally free, open to all. There will be the same activities usually that we have during Art Walk. So there'll be food trucks, lots of vendors, and it's going to be a really, really fun night.
And check out the Jack's Makerspace Gallery during that too, because the folk festival plays into the current exhibit that's happening right now.
Yeah, that's right. We have a really, really awesome folk art exhibit. If you haven't seen it yet, some awesome local artists are in our gallery here at the main library. So check that out. Again, we call it the Folk It Up Music Festival, happening May 1st, 5:30 to 9 downtown. So make sure you guys come out for that. Thank you again to Jake for taking some time to come and talk to us about downtown. I'm excited for the future.
Yeah.
I hope I hope downtown becomes what we all hope it will be.
I've been working downtown for 3 years now, and I would say in the last year, stuff's starting to really get going with the renovation of certain buildings around the library. So hopefully it's just more and more.
Yeah, I think it will. Make sure you guys check out our podcast page, jackspubliclibrary.org/podcast. We will link to our folk music festival. We'll link to all the books that Jake mentioned here as well. Make sure you follow us at Jack's Library, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And subscribe to our show. And leave us a review. Why not, right? Yeah, let us know what you think. This podcast was produced by Brian Thomas, a.k.a. BT, a.k.a.
Producer Brian.
Goodbye.